Welcome. My name is Brian Ladd, and I'm a TCI trainer, national trainer, both social studies and science. I pretty much specialize in K through 5 science, so I'm really excited to work with you today. I'm assuming that we have folks at all different levels. I'll be doing navigate, teach, and planning. It's a quick session. Um, this will be recorded. I'll also show you where our professional development is so that you can investigate further. Ryan, would you like to introduce yourself really quickly here?
Yeah, my name is Ryan Lonsdale, and I'm a customer consultant with TCI, working with districts mainly on the West Coast.
Excellent. So just housekeeping. If you have Q&A, go ahead and put it in the chat. Share your question with everybody unless it needs to be specific. If it's specific, address it to Ryan and he will address your chat questions. I'll do a checkup every so often saying, hey, Ryan, any questions? And he may
Brian, it
also,
would be best if they just use the Q&A just for questions.
okay, Q&A just for
So like
questions.
chat
Thank
is
you.
for communicating with everyone else, but if you wanted to ask Brian or myself a specific question, please do it through the Q&A, and I'll either reply directly to you or I'll save it for Brian, who will answer it live.
We'll do it a whole group. Some of them are pertinent to everybody, some are individual there. So
Yes.
thank you. So what we're going to be covering this morning is navigating TCI. Again, for those who don't know, TCI stands for Teachers Curriculum Institute. I know Bert talked about that earlier. We'll talk about slideshow delivery format and then the resources in App PD to help you as you move along with your program here. So these are our elementary school science programs, K through 5. K1, 2 have 3 units, 3, 4, 5 have 4 units. We have journals. I know there's a few schools that have the textbooks that you adopted originally, but most of the folks are using journals. And so there is one journal for each unit as you go through. If you have the older textbook and the interactive student notebook, there is one student notebook. Remember about TCI in our science, especially, it is flexible. You do not have to teach in order. You can pick which units you want to pick. I will show you how we suggest what not to miss. And I'll do that in my next session about tips for investigations, etc. So don't feel obligated to start with unit 1 and end with unit 3 or unit 4. You can mix and match, especially if you want to incorporate this with your ELA program. Big believer here. If you've had me before, you know I believe that it's fantastic to teach ELA through social studies and science. Our kids really get it, and it's a lot of fun. So TCI is NGSS. We started, as you probably know, from the ground up with NGSS. So we weren't just adding things to our program. And we always start with the lesson phenomena. And we have unit phenomena, but we also have a lesson observing phenomena for our students. We go into our 3D investigations, which are DCIs, SEPs, and CCCs. Then come back and make sense of that phenomena, and then we do 3D assessments. Based on which grade level you're teaching, you probably aren't K1 doing any formal assessments, but we have all kind of formative project-based assessments, authentic assessments built in there. So this is the same lesson cycle as we move through each of the components there. I'm going to go live right now. So I'm going to pick a second grade lesson and I'm going to go to unit 2. So if you're on your programs, feel free to log in. If you're not, you can observe from the location that you're at. So I'm in a second grade program and this is what the homepage looks like. You'll see the homepage. If I click on a key, I can log in and view as a student, which is really important. Why would I want to see from my student view? One, I want to see what work they're doing, even though it's also in grades. And this is if they're doing it online. You may have students, you may have a resource teacher, an administrator, a parent who wants to see the student work, so you can log in and view as that student there. Here is the purple menu bar with all the information. I am going to, these are the 3 units. Remember, second grade has 3 units. These are our 3 units, but I'm going to start with the unit overview. This is our starting point. And I'm looking at the second unit. Each unit will talk about what the performance expectations are. This is all physical science and then engineering technology, the ETS. And then there's a storyline. We always start with the storyline to hook our students in each unit. Do you like playing outside? If you go out when it's cold, you might see a frozen pond or frost on leaves. If it's rainy, you might bring an umbrella to keep you dry. Let's find out how different weather can affect materials. The anchoring phenomena, sometimes ponds are filled with water, sometimes they are icy. Again, your phenomena, each of your learning, NGSS learning expectations are there. We start every unit with a video, and I'm going to play this video.
Yeah, I love playing outside, but sometimes it rains. My mom tells me to bring an umbrella and wear rain boots. I wonder, what are umbrellas and rain boots made of? How do they keep me dry? When it gets cold enough, it starts snowing. The pond even freezes over. But when it gets warm, the ice becomes water again. What materials change when they get cold? Let's find out. You'll use what you learned to see how cold weather affects materials. Then you'll examine materials to build an umbrella. Hi, I'm Samaya.
Yep. When she's talking about building an umbrella at the end, that would be part of a performance assessment. And performance assessments are unit assessments that are authentic assessments. I'm not going to go into those now, but if you're interested, let us know. And we do a lot of presentations with that. So in the orange boxes, whether I'm in the unit overview or the lesson overview, anything that you see as orange is for teachers only. And in these orange boxes, here's the unit highlights. Really important for teachers, what not to miss. I know that almost all of us have very limited time to teach science and social studies. So if you're teaching 60 to 90 minutes a week dedicated to science, we have down here what not to miss. If you can do it all, that's awesome. But for the most part, this is what a lot of teachers say, hey, how do I know what to teach? How do I know what I can skip? It's right here. When I get to the lessons, it'll give you more information in there. I'm going to close this box now. We have our video libraries. These video libraries let you know which videos are contained in each one of the lessons, whether it's built into the slides or additional. Those are not published to the students. So if you want your students to see it online and these students have licenses, you would publish it and they could see it. For you as a teacher, you have access to all of these. We also have 2 games, grades 3 through 5, and 1 game, K through 2. This game is a lesson game, which is available for all students. There are a number of squares. You can use this as a formative assessment. You could assign it to your students. I like doing this whole class as kind of a formative assessment before my students did a more summative assessment. So I could say the side of the class, somebody raises their hand, they say a squirrel, I'm just randomly picking, and that's wrong. The other side of the class, is it a rock? They would get a half point. So 1 point if they get it right, half point if they don't. Again, it's a way to do a formative assessment. If you assign it to your students, you would also get to see how your students did, and maybe you need to reteach some questions. Biographies. Our biographies are not in scope and sequence, so you can pick and choose those particular biographies that you might want to show your students. If there is a video, that video will actually read to them. We're eventually putting videos with everything so that it is accessible to all our students as we walk through. I invite you to look at the biographies. They're not in their books or their journals. They're only online, so you would show this whole class. And there are some questions that go with that. So that's an option. Do you have to use the biographies? No, you don't. But again, it's another tool for you to enhance your learning with your students. Assessments I'll get to a little bit later. As I scroll down the unit, I'm looking at the different lessons. This particular unit has 6 lessons. Again, we don't have chapters, we have lessons that we created the lesson and the text was written around it. I can click here, green buttons are action buttons, and they'll take me to another spot on the program. But what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to hit lesson overview. And what I want to do is I want to do lesson 3, unit 2, lesson 3. Again, the orange box. When I was in the unit overview, this gives me all the lessons for this unit, but I'm going to go to lesson overview and just look at one lesson. In this orange box, it gives me the overview. If there is a hands-on, you're going into the kit and the students are preparing or doing something, we always have a demonstration video for you, the teacher, to be able to show.
In this group investigation, you will think like an engineer to design and build a bridge using different materials. You will test the materials to see how strong they are and how well they absorb water.
And so this gives you an idea, the teacher, what this particular lesson would look like, how you would present that. Because often it's like, here's the investigation. What do I do? This is what it would look like. An approximate estimated time frame, and then assessment options as you go through. I'll talk about super simple science in a little bit. Then the materials. Here are the materials you would need. Almost all the materials are contained in the kits, but I want to know more than just, hey, here's a big list. So I'm going to click on See Materials Details. When I do that, it also takes me to this over here. It shows me where the materials are. I can hover over the box and it shows me which box, which bin, which bag in my kits the materials actually exist. So I have that ability to look and see. If I scroll down, if there's a human, the teacher would supply the scissors here. Prints, if any extension handouts you would need to print off, but anything else you should either have in your interactive student notebook or you would have in your journal, depending on what you have. One thing to note on the bottom, we do have a new teacher guide. For those who've got the old lesson guides, there's a new teacher guide. And this new teacher guide is actually, we have teachers write, and it's much more teacher friendly. It has the answers built in. It looks more like the student journals here as you go through. So it's just another resource and tool that we have adopted and changed and created for you as we
Hey,
walk.
Brian, we did get an interesting
Go
question.
for it.
Someone wanted to know about the videos describing the investigation and the materials. Would that be just for teachers, or could that be a video that you would show to the class?
You can show, excellent question. You can show that to your class. Some of the parts of these videos are actually embedded in your slides that I'm going to show you in about 2 minutes here. So parts of them are embedded and they're broken down into smaller chunks as you walk through. So it's intended for both teachers and students. I've had some teachers show it, some teachers show chunks, but again, as you go through the investigation slideshow, you'll see that a lot of these videos are broken down into smaller chunks there. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, thanks, Brian.
You're welcome. Procedures, here are your procedures. Here's the investigations, how you walk through. Again, there's an investigation video. We put the video in multiple places for you, and it tells you which pages things are located on. Learning progression. Where did my students learn this? When did they learn this? I know my students will say, oh, we never learned this, even though I may have taught it to them. So that's always a challenge for us. A couple of important things up here. Differentiating instruction. At TCI, it is really important to us that all students have access to the same learning. And so we suggest online how to adjust the reading. We suggest and how to adjust the investigations. We also suggest what can I do to make sure my EL students, my students reading and writing below grade level, special ed, physical or otherwise, or advanced learners, what can they do to enhance and to make sure that they all have access to the materials? Enhancing learning. These are outside materials, activities, could be FETs, which is a simulation. It could be virtual field trips, reading suggestions that we aggregate from outside of TCI and bring in to our program. If you see a dead link, let us know and we'll replace it. And then finally, science background. Not all of us elementary school teachers are science experts, so we might need to know some more information to help us prepare in there. We don't write 10 pages, we just give you some ideas and background there. So this is under the planning, is under the in the individual lesson. You walk through that. This is also in the teacher guide. If you look down here, these two words are the most important words. If you can't remember everything I said today, make sure you get to lesson overview and investigation slideshow. This is what you show your students. I'm going to click and play, and this is what I present to my students. And you'll see the time, take it with a grain of salt, it depends on your students. So we're going to start with an observing phenomena. And we ask our students, think of a few different bridges that you have seen where all of these, were all made of similar or different materials. And by the way, I can click on this, blow it up, and drag it around if I wanted to. Any of the pictures you can do that for. All right. Here's our phenomena. Bridges can be made from many different materials. Is there a bridge near your community? What material is the bridge made of? We might have to give our students some ideas like, oh, what about an overpass? Things like that. So we ask our students to discuss. Often we say, find it, go outside, look at nature, look out the window, things that are easy for them. So this lesson phenomena is bridges can be made from many different materials. Then we ask our students to watch the video and think about the lesson phenomena that bridges are made of different materials. So that you know, most of the observing videos are have no sound in them. Some of them do. Because we want our students to look, we want our students to observe. Okay. And then we tell them, is there a bridge near your community? What materials is the bridge made of? That's our phenomena. And by the end of the lesson, you will be able to explain this phenomena. Whenever you see the turquoise-ish, bluish box, this is what would be in their journal or online, either way you do it. And I can start typing a gobbledygook to model the answers for my students. If you happen to assign this to your students, anything that's orange will never show up on the student side in there. I often get the question, so I've typed in and it's saved, but I'm going to do it over again. How do I get rid of this? How do I make it fresh? How do I clean it up? Down at the bottom, there are 3 dots, and those 3 dots allow you to restart your slideshow. What does that mean? It erases everything and you can start from scratch. And so when I get to this, it is blank again. So this is the 3 dots down at the bottom. Another question I often get is, can I share the slideshow with my colleagues or my team? The way to do that is you would copy the URL and you would, when it's open in present mode, you would send it to your colleague and then it would be downloaded into theirs. You cannot work on it like Google Slides. They would just be able to get a copy in there. If they wanted to edit and send it back, they'd have to do the same process in there. So that's the observing phenomena. Then we define the problem. This is a drag and drop, and I'm going to randomly do this. Come on, Brian. And then I check my answers. And students enjoy this. They can tell you where to put things. You could preset it. If you see purple buttons, it gives answers. It doesn't always give the answers, but it gives answers. Why do we have that? One, that we know our students aren't just auditory learners, they're also visual learners. So they need to sometimes see the answers. You do not have to open this up if you don't want to. That's completely up to you. Engineering problem. You have an engineering problem to solve. This happens to be an engineering. Purple buttons, I'm connecting to the phenomena. Just little ideas and hints for you as a teacher that you could share with your students. I'm going to go through this kind of fast now. Then we collect and analyze data. We talk about this. You'll notice there is a piece of the video that's in here that was also in the teacher.
First, cover your desk with newspaper. Place blue construction paper in the middle.
And so you see that it will actually walk your students through so they can see it too. And then we write it out exactly what students should be doing. In this particular one, they're going to create a bridge out of different types of materials. And almost all these materials are in the kits themselves. And here are the different materials they have. We talk about the properties. Again, I'm moving it kind of quick. What happens when it rains? You have to make your bridge strong enough so if it rains, it'll survive. And then we perform a spray test. And then we design a bridge. We always ask our students about criteria and constraint. What is it that we can do? What can't we do? What are we asking for? Again, I'm walking through this kind of quick as you go through. Then once they've finished the bridge component, by the way, when you see extension, that is something that you can do in addition to. The kids love testing the bridge. They love the spray test. And I always think that's important because it's kind of, okay, my bridge, it held 6 blocks. It survived a rainstorm. And so it's kind of like the culminating success for them. Once they're done with the bridge itself, oops, sorry, got ahead of myself. We move to the vocabulary, which is a drag and drop. And then your students You can ask them to guess which one. By the way, there are never more than 6 words on a page because the research shows that there's too much there. And then we always come back and wrap up my science concepts. Really important. We're taking what we learned and we're wrapping that back up. We're talking about why are different materials used for different purposes? What are some examples? How do engineers know what works and what doesn't work? And then we ask our students to rate their understanding. And they can do this in their journals themselves. If you have it online, they can do it online. It's always fascinating to see how your students rate them. I often found my students rated themselves tougher than I might rate them as they go through. Then comes the reading. Most of NGSS reading comes afterwards. And in fact, under procedures in that orange box I showed you originally, that will actually tell you when the reading should be done. For example, sometimes it's before, not often. I was doing a 4th grade with electronics and they're setting up the electronics. The students needed a lot of background knowledge before they actually did the experiment. So what I've got now is the reading. And if I want to read with my class, you see the green button, it's an action button. I open it up and it's a window within a window. Brian here doesn't like that. He likes big picture idea. So what I do, I'm going to do that again. I'm going to blow it up. And now I'm in the reading. You notice it's page 39 and 40. That is which page it is in the journal. So the pages online match the actual pages for your students. Here is the reading. It looks exactly the same. The definitions are embedded. If I click on a picture, it'll blow up. I can drag my cursor across. Some really cool features. 2nd grade through 5th grade, we have 2 Lexiles. Lexile A is at grade level. Lexile B will drop at approximately 25%. We don't have that for KN1, and KN1 teachers understand why we can't drop that 25%. The vocabulary is the same, it's just the sentence structure materials. We have text to speech.
Materials for keeping out rain. It's a warm.
This is AI generated, and the purpose behind it is for our students who might be dyslexic, students, emerging readers and writers, students who are struggling below grade level. K1 and 2, you have the ability to do narration where it will just read to them as they walk through. And narration will not highlight, it's just somebody actually reading to them. Now, a brand new feature that just came out 2 days ago, and all of us are like super excited about this. This button here was not here 2 days ago, or before Monday. And so this button now allows me to translate into, I'm going to go to one I had requested the other day. Somebody asked me, do you have Ukrainian? Last week I said no. This week I say, I click on it and a box will open up in these languages and it will be played.
Теплий, дощовий день. Ти хочеш вийти на двір?
So anything that you highlight will be translated. There'll be over 100 languages. These are the initial languages. So this button is not open now, but as soon as I highlight something, I can pick a language and play that language.
你可以穿棉大衣，但是水会
And that is the only thing you can translate is the reading itself. If I wanted to translate Spanish, I would go down to the bottom and it'll change the entire program to Spanish as you walk through there. Any questions, Ryan? Anything?
No, we just had a few questions specific to someone's district and getting
Okay.
access, but and then we did have a question about sometimes the vocabulary not lining up with the actual print journals. I advise them to reach out to our support team using the feedback option, and then they could look into that for them.
Yes, and they make changes very, very quickly there.
Yeah, so it's very possible we just need to make a change and update it.
It happens. Any questions about the reading? If you have your students, there's always a check for understanding. And if you have your students doing it online, it would be right here for your students. Most of you are having them do it in their journals or their notebooks as they walk through. Okay, I'm going to kind of finish up this investigation slideshow. So again, we're walking, we're going through the steps. Then we ask our students to show what they know. Take it, this is your processing. You can use this as in a form of authentic assessment. Talk about scientists new materials, look at the table, study the data, be able to explain your answer. And then finally, we make sense of this original phenomena. We started there, we come full circle, and now we're making sense of this phenomena. We always end with a CER no matter what grade level it is. And we know that claim is pretty easy to make, evidence, our students, some adults struggle, and reasoning is a challenge for everybody. And so what we've actually done for you as a teacher, we've provided 2 examples of CER for you as you walk through. Many teachers I know, we're doing this whole class so our students can walk through it. Some of you have independent writers and readers and they can do some of this on their own. But the CER is going to be at the end with the making sense of the phenomena. And again, we give you 2 different examples, possibilities. Claim bridges are made from different materials because they are used for different purposes. Okay, the evidence, there are 3 different types of bridges in the video. One is made of stone, one's wood, and one's metal. Reasoning, metal is sturdier than rope. A bridge made from wood and rope could be used on a playground. That's a form of reasoning. And then example 2, you can read through that. So there's 2 different, again, 2 different answers. I know my students, even my colleagues, would often struggle with the reasoning part because they tend to restate their claim and evidence as they walk through there. And then we connect to the unit anchoring phenomena if you are doing that. That's up to you and how you want to do that with the unit. And that's it. That is the investigation slideshow. And that's under the lesson overview. I'm going to open this back up. Lesson overview, investigation slideshow. Questions on the investigation slideshow. This is what you show your students. It is editable. Anywhere you see a paper and pencil in our program, you can edit it. And then if you did edit it, it would not change the original. It would actually create a new slideshow. So I'm going to do this really quickly. So I'm back on my lesson overview. I click edit, and I'm just going to put Summit, if I could spell. And it's copying the entire slideshow for me. And I'm going to just do something really quick. I'm going to take and click on here, and I want this bold and italicized. And that's the change I made. I could change the picture. I could add my own videos. There's lots of things I could do. You'll notice this is the original investigation slideshow. The one I created is under my slideshows. Okay, so the one I created is here. If I did this and then I came back to it next year, it's still going to be there. Anything you do, any changes you make will come back and will still be there for you. Any edits, etc. But you can't change the original TCI, which is good for people like me who mess things up. There's also an alternative that you can do in one class period. For example, super simple science. This is only available online, and there's a video that says, hey, we need a string and basket and objects to drop on a web. And I'll put this.
Before we get started, gather these materials. Super simple science, stronger than steel. Spiders spin their webs from the silk they make. But it is not just for webs.
And so then it'll play the video for your students. Again, if you translate it to Spanish, all this will be in Spanish. And then there's questions. Many spiders build webs to catch insects to eat. How can you build a web to catch something? Then we have them look at spider webs. We have them actually take string and create a web, and then we drop objects on that. And there's a handout for this. If you wanted to print it, you could do this whole class, but you could do this and get a number of the NGSS concepts and standards down by doing this one simple investigation. It could take anywhere, excuse me, between 30 and 60 minutes, depending on the investigation or depending on your students. So where is this located? I go to lesson overview, and every lesson has a super simple science that you could do as a mini lesson because we don't have time to do everything. I don't recommend you do this for every lesson, but sometimes I want a concept across and I need to do it in a very limited amount of time so I can do that. And I also know some teachers will use this to enhance what the students have learned previously. So there's a couple of options here. This option, as far as reading, is the traditional students are going to read and answer questions, but that's not what NGSS or TCI is about. We're about hands-on inquiry investigation. Questions about the lesson overview?
I'm not seeing any questions currently on the overview, Brian. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, a couple things I want to show you. We do have vocabulary cards available for your students. They're editable. Right now, I always called them a boring version of Quizlet. We got a word, we have a definition. K-1-2 will often have pictures, but if you wanted to edit them, you have the ability again with the edit. And now it will make a copy for me and I can add words. I know some of you do language and maybe you're at 80-20 or 50-50 in English, Spanish, or English Mandarin. You can add your own words. You can change it around. You can also print them out if you wanted to. You notice it made a new copy for me. So if I wanted to print, it will print in English or Spanish, and it will print double-sided. I always like to put words in a pocket chart, definition somewhere else, or the words around the room for my students. And so they have that ability to, you have that ability to use those vocabulary cards.
Brian, just a heads up, we've got 10 minutes left.
Thank you. Thank you. A couple things I wanted to show you before assessments. We have assessments created for you. You can create your own assessment. You can create multiple copies. You can also print them online. I print them or have students take them online. I know many of your students are being tested. I know in California, fifth grade is quite a few states actually, fifth grade is tested for science. And so you need to practice those NGSS tests or assessments, which are much more challenging than the traditional assessments. I often recommend that you give your students sample assessment questions to work on in small groups to teach them how to take these assessments, because these assessments can have GIFs in them. They can have little videos. They have tables. They ask them to think like scientists. They ask them to do investigations. So what these assessments are not is basically regurgitation. However, we do allow you, I'm going to create a new assessment quickly, that we do allow you to sort by the type of response types. You can sort by depth of knowledge. You can add multiple lessons into one assessment. You can also add the journal or notebook questions or the lesson review game questions. And any of these questions here, I can edit and I can change and I can modify for my students if I never need to differentiate or I want separate assessments. So the assessment bank is very extensive. Any assessment, I just created a new assessment, again, will not disappear. It stays with me there. I'm going to take you up to professional development. And this is really important. I've done a lot of things quickly, and we have a lot more to our program than this. But under professional development at the top, we have a number of courses. You don't have to take any of these courses. In these courses, let's say Brian was talking about assigning, and I didn't want to assign, but now I want to assign. So how do I do this? Maybe I'm a fourth grade teacher. So I'm going to click on this particular professional development. And Brian Thomas, who you heard in the intro, created these. He did an incredible job. And I'm not going to listen to Brian, no offense, Brian, but I want to look at assignments. So I click on assignments, skip around again, and we have a screencast for all these components that I was talking about. I'm a terrible DIY person. I need 3 YouTube videos for everything I do, so I need to watch it. So the screencast.
In this challenge and all challenges for this course on assigning and grading page, by opening the sidebar.
So it will walk you through step by step. Sometimes there's 2 screencasts, sometimes there's just one as you walk through. This has a couple of them in there. And there's a little quiz if you want to do it. Again, I'm not saying take any of the courses, but if you need specific things, it really helps you as a refresher or to teach you something new. Those of you who are doing Google Classroom or Schoology or Canvas, how do you integrate? It's all right here. And then we have cooperative classrooms, gamification, saving instructional time, which is always really important to us. And what's new in the fall? We have a lot of new components coming up as we go through. So again, under professional development, has a bunch of courses. You don't have to take them, but look for something that you might need help on. How do I navigate? How do I do those things? I'm going to go to support next. All right. When I go to support, you'll see the PD is up here, but I'm going to scroll down to towards the bottom, and I'm going to click on pacing guide. Okay, I'm going to click on the pacing guide. And I'm in second grade, so I'm going to click on second. You can click on any of them that you want. And this breaks it down in a weekly breakdown. Again, given that you have 60 to 90 minutes a week to teach dedicated to science, you may not have that, so it could adjust. But it gives you kind of a time frame in weeks about how long it would take you to teach each one of these units. Again, you don't have to teach unit 2 second. You could teach it third if it fits with your ELA at a different point. That's up to you and how you want to do that. So this is good for those of us who like it more in a week. How many weeks is this going to take approximately? But if I want to see it in minutes, I go back to the purple bar and I go down to the bottom. And this gives it to me in minutes. So the other one under support, pacing guide, that gave me the information on a weekly breakdown. This gives it to me in minutes. Often I like the minutes because I know I have 60 minutes this week, or I have 90 minutes, or 30 minutes. So what can I do in that time frame? You can also export this as a CSV, Excel spreadsheet, and then it becomes your document that you can manipulate the minutes and make it your own. The other one is not, you can't manipulate unless you have, you use Canva or PDF modifier, you can do that, but this allows you to change it how you want with an Excel spreadsheet there. So I found that under pacing guide here. And then if I wanted to see the pacing guide, oops, I'm sorry, under support, it'd be right here. We have lots of other cool support systems like skills and toolkits, ELA, ELD connections, building scientific questions. I really like this, the CER reasoning planner for myself as well as my students. Also getting my students to ask questions. You know how all our students ask a million questions till we say, hey, so what questions do you have? And all of a sudden you have silence in your classroom. So we give you a lot of PDFs, a lot of support ideas on how to do that as you walk through. The last thing I want to show you before I exit out of this for the next couple of minutes is settings. So I clicked on settings up at the top. My account is going to look different than yours, obviously, but I'm going to click on student features. And right here, I can control. I have a class this year that is all reading significantly below grade level. So I just want to turn off level A online, and I only want my students to have level B access. Or I have a class, my class is all at grade level or above. Never happens, but all at grade level or above, and I'm going to turn off level B. I can also turn on or off Spanish if I wanted to. The text read aloud, again, K1, 2, you have narration or text to speech. 3, 4, 5, it is just text to speech. So you can control that there. You can allow your students to have multiple attempts. I would not mess with the print book page alignments unless you don't have journals or the print textbook, which I think all of you do. Then you might want to turn it off, but I would just leave that as is. So this gives you the ability to manipulate by class on what your students to see or not see online. Next one is really important. Class management, students can't change your learning management system, whether you have Aries or OneRoster or whatever, it takes care of that. But content access. If you have student licenses and you're having your students go online, with all of these checked, my students can access the entire online program. So can mom, so can dad, so can big brother, big sister. And I had one teacher say, yeah, one of my students came in and said, my dad did all the unit this weekend for me. So if you don't want your students to have access to things before you assign it, unclick this, don't forget to hit update, then they cannot access anything online until you actually assign. I'm not going to have time to do assignments, but if you go in the professional development, it shows you very simply how to do that. So again, by unclicking, if students try to go to lesson 5 and they're on lesson 2, it'll just say not assigned across the top there. All right. Any general questions that you might have? I know I gave you a lot and there's still a lot more to go. As I tell my students and the teachers I train, practice doesn't make perfect, it makes habit. So as you practice this, it becomes easier as we walk through.
We just got a few questions that I was able to answer, and then one on a feature that we don't currently support. Do you want to highlight how to reach out to us with feedback in that top right-hand corner?
You see the question mark. And then I click on feedback. And this is where you would give us feedback. We do listen to your feedback. We make lots of changes. The language addition was because teachers said, you have Spanish, but in my own personal experience, we have 64 languages at the school I taught at. So let us know, be specific and also tell us why. Often the tech folks will say, so why do the teachers need that? They think a little bit different than we do as teachers. So do it, put it in, and the more people enter, the higher it goes on the hierarchy. If one person requests, they say, okay, we're going to look into that. But if all of a sudden we're getting a lot of requests, I know it will move up on the hierarchy.
And
So
I will say, when reaching out with the feedback, please include the specific TCI program. And then if you're referencing a lesson or unit, please include that information as well.
yeah. And then just a couple of the present, if there's something new, click on that and there'll be a red dot that will tell you about, hey, the new translation tool is now available. For you, it should be red. For me, I opened it up a couple days ago. So we're notifying you. That way you're not just like, ooh, this is brand new. I'm surprised there. Any other questions before I go back to the
Not at this time. We just got one question, but I'll answer it. Thank you,
okay.
Brian.
All right, our time, I know it's been fast, our time is running out here. So I want you to make sure you understand that TCI is always here. We don't say thanks for buying and we'll see you in 6 to 8 years when you're re-upping. So we have continued professional development. We have our self-paced courses online that I showed you. Product updates are constantly happening. We'll let you know. The winter 2025 was done. I don't know why this is up there, but we've now got our fall 2025 up there, and each time period we'll continue to update and let you know. We have a Facebook group where fantastic questions are being asked by teachers. Teachers are sharing best practices. It is monitored by us, so people can't go wild on it. We also have a not only a Facebook site, but we have a new Instagram site too in there. So feel free to sign up, get in there. We don't inundate you with things, but it's a good way to connect with other teachers across the country. Again, the in-app PD that I talked about. And then what we'd like you to do is share one thing you learned from your sessions today, one session, many sessions, and use the hashtag TCI Summit 25. And if you do that and or follow us on Facebook or Instagram, you'll be entered in a raffle for a $100 gift card and the TCI llama, our new mascot that everybody absolutely loves. Whenever I ask, you want Starbucks cards, llama? Teachers, I want the llama in there. And so we'll have 3 lucky winners will be notified, but you need to put hashtag TCI Summit 25 and we'll enter you in that drawing there. In our next section that'll be coming up at 10:15. And these are the different programs that are available. If you are interested, I'm hosting a session next about how to make getting the most out of investigations with limited time. That's always one of the biggest factors with science is like, it takes so long for me to set up and so long to do. I don't have enough time. How do I do this? Again, CE and R writing for elementary and middle school. We're doing this. This is part of our standards. This is where our teachers are being instructed to do more CER. How do I do it? So I believe it's Laura's going to do that. Supporting content literacy, important in all grades. I know almost all of you are social studies folks and science because you teach elementary. So you might look at some of these elementary social studies components too. Talking about using the games, differentiating with TCI, supporting literacy. So there's a lot of different ways for you to continue to learn not only in science, but social studies today. Even if you're not using TCI for social studies, it's still a good way to get
And
involved.
Brian, I'm going to put a link back to our lobby in case anyone lost it. So once this is over, you'll go back to the lobby and select the period 2 session that you wanted to attend.
And as we close in our last minute here, I want to thank everybody for your time. I want to thank you for I've taught all levels from elementary to high school, and elementary school teachers are the absolute foundation. When I was doing high school, I used to tell my students, go thank your elementary school teachers on Teacher Appreciation Week. you always live in the moment and you're thinking your high school, but those are the teachers who set the foundation. So I'm very thankful for what you do. Keep doing a great job, and please have fun with TCI and have fun teaching. It's a great profession. So thank you. You can stick around if you have any questions for the last minute. If not, feel free to go to the next session. So I appreciate you. So does Ryan.
I do.